Look, I believe in one simple truth. You don't have to be superhuman to be a superhero. There are heroes all around us. Heroes of culture, business, philanthropy, and technology. And on this show, I'm going to talk to them all. My name is Joe Anthony, and this is Hero Talk. Welcome to another episode of Hero Talk, where we talk to ordinary people doing extraordinary things, heroes of culture, business, philanthropy, society, who all have one thing in common: they want to change the world. I'm your host, Joe Anthony, and today I'm with a hero from the LGBT community, Dez Marshall. What's up, Dez?
What's going on?
How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. I'm digging the high top fade.
Thank you. Bringing it back, man. Bringing it back.
Smooth. Well, look, I want to kind of dive right into it because the work that you're doing, people are picking up on it. It was just featured in Complex. People are talking about the amazing work you're doing within the LGBT community. But before we get into that, why don't you tell us a little bit about who Dez Marshall is, what you do, where you come from, and kind of how you developed this kind of incredible, sensibility towards your community and doing the work that you do.
Sure. So I'm originally from Springfield, Mass. I came out to New York when I went to college, went to Hofstra University, and I've been out here for the last about 10 years or so. I started out as a community organizer. I was working with LGBTQ youth of color in not too far from here, on 24th and 7th with a group called Fierce, and we worked on issues of like police harassment, gentrification, and really access to safe public space. I had cut my hair, and for me it was really hard I had really long hair and I cut it to Caesar, and it was hard for me to find a barber who was gonna cut my hair the way I wanted and respect me as a queer woman coming into the space. And so I bought my own clippers, started cutting my own hair. I figured my youth members were having some of the same difficulties, and also, at least I was employed, I could afford a haircut. They had employment issues as well. So I started giving them free haircuts in exchange for their participation in the organization, and just kind of honed my skills. Like many folks in organizing, I got burnt out, and cutting hair was the one other thing I was really, really passionate about. And so knowing the difficulties I had finding a barber, hearing the stories from my youth members with their experiences at barbershops, I knew I wanted to be the barber for the queer, trans, and gender nonconforming community. And so got my barber license, and I haven't looked back since. That's awesome. Well, talk a little bit about the kind of experiences that you talk about or that you've referenced that kind of led you down this path. I mean, obviously, we take for granted, as at least as New Yorkers. I mean, one of the safe places and the places I go on the weekends, hang out with my boys, is to go get a cut. And it's kind of one thing that we all kind of just presume you're always going to be welcomed, and you're always going to be received with a level of camaraderie and hospitality, right? Because that's where you socialize, right? And I, to be honest, I never thought about how that could potentially impact the LGBT community. So what was the first experience that you had that really kind of set you down a path that said, you know what, I got to change this? It'll be the first time when I cut my hair. So I had cut all my long hair at a beauty salon with my mom when I was in high school, and it just felt really weird being in that space. So I was like, all right, I don't think I want to come back to a beauty salon. There was no connection there. And I had an afro for a really long time, and I just wanted to see what I looked like with no hair. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna cut this joint off. So I went to a barbershop near Hofstra, and there were a couple of people ahead of me, so I go in and I sit in the waiting area and I'm checking out the different barbers, trying to figure out which one I'm gonna let cut my hair. And I was there for about 30 minutes after the shop emptied, because none of the barbers were talking to me. Nobody gestured me to come to their chair. So I finally just pointed to the dude. I was like, is your chair open? Sat down. And immediately he started asking, why was I cutting my hair? Am I a lesbian? Do I have a girlfriend? What's sex like? Like really invasive, and like my homies didn't even ask me these questions. So it felt really uncomfortable, but he gave me a dope cut. And so I kept going back, and I just wouldn't engage with him. And that was kind of I didn't want to have to make that decision between, do I get a dope cut and get treated like shit, or do I find another barber? In Long Island, it was a little bit more difficult because I don't drive. But when I came to Brooklyn and started living out here, it was some of the same instances. Like, I would go, I'd get ignored when I was in the shop, or when I would walk in, it's like all eyes on me. I equate it to, like, as people of color, when we go into businesses and you get followed around, and that feeling of like, they don't want you there, you don't belong. That's how I felt going into different barbershops. I finally did find a barber who treated me with respect and demanded respect from everybody else in the shop, but he wasn't the best barber. And so I went to him for a very, very long time, and then started just cutting my own hair because I was like, all right, this is simple enough. I'm just getting a low-cut season on the number one. I can go without a shape-up for a little bit because I didn't know how to do that yet. But for me, it was, I didn't like the feeling I got walking into a shop and all eyes being on me and these questions about my personal life. It felt like I was being interrogated sometimes. On the one hand, I think that those particular barbers, they may have thought that they were bonding with me, but for me, it just made me feel really, really uncomfortable. And I didn't want to feel that anymore. And I didn't want my members to have that feeling either. That's why I started giving them free haircuts. And once I went to barber school, got my license, I knew I wanted to...
Was this experience prior to you going to barber school, or had you already... Okay.
Yeah,
right.
I had been going to barber shops for my haircuts probably about 7 years, 8 years before I went to barber school. But, you know, once I found a barber that respected me for me, it was at the cost of a really good haircut. And you shouldn't have to make that distinction. You shouldn't have to make that choice to be treated like a person, but your hair look a mess. Or your hair look dope, but you're treated like a mess.
So the first time you started doing this, you got a chair in someone else's shop. So how did you start down this path?
I got really lucky being at the barber school that I was at. A customer came in, and it was probably like, it was my last week in the school, and I'd never cut this guy's hair before. And it was a very simple cut. He just wanted a baldy and a shave. And me and him were chopping it up, and he was asking, would I be here next week? And I was like, nah, I'm graduating from the school. And he asked me what shop I'm gonna be at. I was like, I don't have a shop yet. We found out we both lived in Flatbush, and he was like, I know a lot of barbers, so I'll talk to them and I'll come back and let you know if I find anything. So I'm like, yeah, okay. I just waved it off like this dude's never gonna come back. And a couple of days later, he did with a bunch of business cards. And he was going through all of them. It's like, this one seems really excited to have a female barber. This one, not so much, but they have an empty chair. So I took one of the cards, went to the shop, talked to the owner. He had me cut hair in front of him, and he was like, all right, you're not gonna mess anybody up, so I'll give you the chair. And I was there for almost 2 years, building my brand, building my clientele, building my skill. Unfortunately, it didn't work out because the type of space and what I'm trying to create for my community, it's a dope barbershop, but they couldn't be what I needed.
Yeah.
And so I went to another shop, which was really good. Unfortunately, the owner passed away. And so now I'm at my third shop, which I'm hoping to stay at for a while because moving is tiring.
So what's the feedback you're getting from people within the gay community right now? I mean, like I said, I've taken this for granted, and I'm sure that there's a lot of other people that don't recognize the challenges that people in the LGBT community face when getting a simple cut. But what's the response been from people within your community?
I mean, for my clients, I'm successful at what I do because of them. And clients coming back repeatedly. I've been doing this now for 3 years, and a lot of my clients I've had for those 3 years. A lot of the common feedback I get is that they feel respected, they feel seen, that I give them exactly the type of cut that they want. When other folks, my clients kind of put my info out there word of mouth, or they throw it up on Facebook or on Twitter or on Instagram, and people will hit me up and be like, I had no clue that this even existed. I want to get a cut by you ASAP. Because I think folks know at this point they come to whatever shop I'm at in my chair, you're going to be seen, you're going to be respected, you're going to get the cut that you ask for. For me, it's less about the cut itself, and it's more about just connecting with the person. As an organizer, when you're building your base, when you're trying to recruit members, that's what it's about, is that individual person and building that genuine bond. And I take that with me as a barber, which is one reason why I think I'm so successful at what I've been doing, is because I'm being real with folks, and I'm giving them dope cuts, which is part of the game.
You know, I see my bartender almost the same way I see a bartender, somebody that, you know, for those few minutes I'm having a drink, or those few minutes I'm in a chair, you know, we have a relationship, we have a bond, where we can just, you know, be transparent with each other. We can talk about family, we can talk about sports, music, whatever.
Yeah, they're your therapist,
yeah,
and your life coach,
exactly.
and confidant,
Exactly,
all of that.
exactly.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things, you know, that your clients are telling you while they're sitting in these chairs? Are you just having normal conversations? Do the conversations stem and revolve around the current conditions within the LGBT community here in New York? What are some of those things that you guys are discussing? I mean, if you could tell, what you could share with us.
Client privilege.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about everything that you probably talk about with your barber, with your bartender, with your homie, like whoever it is. We talk about current events. We talk about sports. I'm a big basketball fan. I'm from Springfield, Mass. We invented basketball. It's in my DNA. So I'm always talking about basketball. We usually have ESPN on. A lot of times for some of my clients, that it's like a foreign language to them, so I try and talk to them about sports to kind of just teach them about the game. We talk a lot about Trump.
Yeah.
And before then, we would talk about Obama. Some of my clients have kids, so they show me pictures. Some have gotten married since I've been cutting their hair. Some have health issues, and they talk to me about that. You know, my clients run the range of ages to like from 13 to 70. So whatever their experiences are in their life, we're talking about it. If it's one of my 13-year-olds, I'm asking them about school. If it's a 70-year-old, I'm asking about life and trying to get some wisdom from them, since they've seen so much. But we do, a lot of times when it's the first time a client is coming to me and they've been to another barber, I do ask, what about that experience didn't you like? What did you like? So I can make sure to create a safe and welcoming space for them that's going to bring them back.
From the first time you came and migrated to New York to where you are now, are you seeing a change in the level of confidence amongst people within the LGBT community to live their truth? Or is there still a level of apprehension, especially amongst young people, to kind of come out and live their truth indiscriminately and just be who they are?
I think young folks are the bravest people in this world right now. I did not come out myself until after college, after my freshman year. And it was because I knew at that point, if God forbid my family had abandoned me, I was ready to provide for myself. But young folks are coming out at such early ages now, which I wish I had came out earlier, because then, I mean, I didn't create a queer family until I was in my mid-20s. I'm in my mid-30s now. So it's still kind of new to me. I'm still kind of a baby gay in some ways. But young folks are coming out earlier and earlier, which I think is really dope and really great, and it kind of helps to diminish the othering that happens in this community. But I don't necessarily think interactions have really changed. We still have super homophobic people, super transphobic people. I think it's great that the trans community and their issues and you know, just them are getting more of the limelight in kind of mainstream media. But all of us, we've been around since the dawning of time. It's just that now more folks are seeing us. But, you know, we've it's like anything else. We've overcome a lot, but there's still such a long way to go.
What do you think is contributing to the rise in confidence amongst young people to kind of live their truth and come out earlier? I mean, because I'm on the train, I'm seeing, you know, young female couples, you know, holding hands and being overt and expressing themselves without kind of fear or concern. And it's refreshing. I actually grew up with a gay cousin, and her and I were best friends growing
Yeah.
up, and so she would expose me to her social circles, and they were just some of the most amazing people that I've ever met in my life. So when I grow up now and I hear, or when I hear all these polarizing stories about the gay experience and how, especially in New York, people are still living with a level of apprehension in terms of coming out. But at the same time, you're seeing these young people being, to your point, extremely brave. What do you think is driving that? Is it social media and the fact that they grew up in an age
Yeah,
where self-expression is being celebrated?
I think it's a little bit easier when you know other folks like yourself. When I was growing up in Springfield, I was the only gay person I knew. I didn't know anybody else. When I got to high school, there were two girls that came out. They were a couple of grades younger than me. And I was so excited that they came out and that they were open at the school. And I so badly wanted to be a part of that, to be like, I'm Dez, I'm queer, and this is who I am. My biggest dream was to have gone to my prom with the girl that I was crushing on. But that didn't happen because I didn't know anybody else. I felt very much alone. But with Instagram, with Twitter, Facebook, just the interwebs, Al Gore's internet lets us connect to people that we don't necessarily see in person, or maybe we do, but you can feel just more community and more camaraderie. And when you have folks who are supportive of you, who are also experiencing the same thing, living that experience with you, it does give you more confidence and more folks that love you, that are gonna have your back. So when you do come out, it doesn't feel like it's your world is about to end because your family might disown you because now you have this other group of folks. Yeah. I didn't have that growing up. I didn't know how to seek that out either. And I think younger folks today, like they know how to do all that stuff because they have that access. I've been able to do that now in my adult life. I wish I had it when I was younger, but to each their own. You play the cards you're dealt with.
Now you spoke a little bit about the trans community kind of being the topic of the day within the LGBT community, or within that narrative. How much of that population makes up your customer base? Or do you outreach to them specifically to let them know that you want their business and you want them as clients? I mean, obviously we hear a lot of the horror stories around how they're treated. The suicide rate within that particular sector of the LGBT community is extremely high. In your outreach work, do you do anything specific to target those members of your community?
So most of my outreach happens on Facebook, and really all I did was I would go on Facebook and search for all the groups I could find in New York that had the word queer, trans, or gender nonconforming in it, and I would just I make memes and I would post them in the group. So it was definitely an intention, but I wouldn't say that it was like wasn't like extremely focused. I just would post in any.
Our last guest was from Google. Group. You got to get with her and get the keywords so people can search and find you easier.
But a good amount of my clientele are trans folks, and so again, I mean, I think the ultimate reason that a lot of people come and see me is because I see them. I see them as people. I see them as the individuals that they are. I see them as part of the community that we're all a part of. But I think for folks who are trans, who may not pass for whatever reasons, they don't always feel, they don't get a welcoming a lot of times. And people transition in different ways. Some folks might take hormones, some might have some surgeries done, and some don't do anything. But identify as trans, and so my job is to support them and all my clients in being who they want to be, looking the way that they want to look, regardless of orientation, gender identity, or gender expression. And I think folks they feel comfortable with me.
A little broader question now. I mean, what do you think are some of the stereotypes that are still driving some of the misperceptions amongst the LGBT community or acceptance within kind of mainstream society, not just here in New York, but everywhere. I mean, some of the things I grew up, being told was that gay people just like to hang out with gay people. Or
Really?
like if you saw gay people together, like people were apprehensive about approaching kind of a group of gay people because they felt like, they were their own clique. And those are just things that I was exposed to. But what are some of the stereotypes that are still kind of creating that wedge between the straight community and the queer community to help kind of build some of these bridges that desperately need to be created?
I mean, I always see on like Twitter or here in the news, they talk about this gay agenda. I go to the monthly gay meetings. I've never seen any gay agenda before, so I don't know what they're talking about. But I mean, we're people just like anybody else. So I'm not. I think it's just it's this othering and this like. Folks are always. They ask me how did you know you were queer? And I'm like, well, how did you know you weren't? I'm queer because that's just who I am. Mm-hmm. You're straight just because that's who you are. Like, I think people want to try and understand something that you don't really need to understand. You don't need to understand my sexuality. You just need to understand I'm a person. I have wants, I have needs, I have desires, I have feelings, I have goals, I have prejudices. I'm like anybody else. Queer community, trans community, gender nonconforming community is just like anything else. I think folks need to understand the difference between orientation, identity, and expression. Because I think that, a lot of times you might see people and they're like, oh yeah, they're gay because of the way that someone looks. Folks will readily say that I'm queer because I dress the way I dress. I dress like this because I had 2 older brothers and I mimicked everything they did and I wanted to be just like them. If I had 2 older sisters who were very femme and wore dresses and long flowing hair, I'd probably dress like that. I'd still be queer though. But I think it's just this othering and like that's not me, so I don't understand that. And I don't know why folks do that. I don't know why folks have so much hate. I don't know why people have posters saying that I'm going to hell because I have a girlfriend instead of a boyfriend. I don't understand that level of hate for someone that you don't even know. I don't get it. But if you have conversations with folks, that can help. Like talk to a queer person, talk to a trans person. Everybody knows these folks. You may not be aware, but you know them. You know a trans person in your life. You know a gay person in your life. Talk to them. We're not aliens. We're just like everybody else. But, I think it's people like to compare it to the struggle and plight of black folks in America and how long it took to be accepted and still be seen. I would say those two are very different, but I walk in this world as a queer woman of color, so I experience a lot of different isms all at once. I think just talking is the first step. I don't know what comes after that, though, because we haven't had talks yet.
So you're so used to being so many other people's therapists. Mm-hmm. Who's your therapist? Like, who do you express yourself to? Who do you release to? Who comforts you sometimes? Because obviously you're doing noble work where you're providing these people with such an amazing platform and a place to feel safe. Where do you turn to for that same comfort?
I'm very lucky to have a really dope best friend who has been my friend since 2nd grade. So my friend Sarana is my go-to. We email almost every day. We talk once, twice a week on the phone. That's my rock. It's like my sister. And my girlfriend Crystal is probably my biggest support. We both came from organizing backgrounds. So we kind of have the same kind of language around processing things and our goals are very similar, even though we do different work. Our goal is, to support our communities in different various ways. And so she knows my vision, I know her vision. They link up well. She actually is the one who supported and kind of pushed me to become a barber because I talked about it for so long, but was so scared to make that jump from organizing to being a barber. Obviously, gotta thank my mom because I'd be nothing without her. I'm the baby of the family, so there's nothing that I can do that's wrong in her eyes. She thinks that I can achieve anything in the world. And I got just good, dope friends that support me. But when something is good or bad in my life, Crystal's the first person I want to talk to. Second person is Serrana.
No, that's great.
So.
That's great. And now, you talked a little bit earlier about goals. What is your ultimate goal? What's your purpose? What are you really trying to achieve? What's success for you?
For me, the ultimate goal is to have my own shop. It's nice to be able to rent and not have to worry about all the many things that an owner of a business has to worry about. But I really want to have my own shop. I want it to expand beyond just being a barbershop. Like, I want to be, the kind of beauty and wellness one-stop shop for the queer, trans, and gender nonconforming community. I want to be able to, folks to be able to come through, get their hair cut if they need a barber, go to the beauty salon. You need to beat that face for an event, you come see my makeup folks. I want like facials and back massages, and to have therapists if needed, someone for people to talk to. I want to be mindful of what's helpful for folks to use in terms of makeup or any type of beauty supplies that is good if they're on taking any type of hormones, if they're transitioning. I want to be that one-stop shop for my community. And also, I'm a community organizer. That's never gonna leave me. So I want my space to be available to the community, to have events, to have meetings. The same way that some folks think of like the Black church, I want my shop to be that for the community. Because it's important that we have safe spaces. It's important that we all, have a place to go to. It's not a safe space if it's just for one group. Like, everybody needs to be welcomed. So I want straight cis folks to come through. I want trans folks to come through. I want queer folks to come through, gender fluid folks to come through. I want to build real community. And I want to do that starting with haircuts. It's the great equalizer, because everybody wants to look good.
Well, I'm going to be your first client up in there. So,
That's
hopefully you get this shop. I know you're going to do it. What you're doing is amazing work, Dez. Thank you so much for stopping by and blessing us and telling us about the amazing work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Anything we can do to help, please holler at us.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.